Hello everyone, welcome back to our next class, which is about modes of transfer. So basically we are having three different type of modes to transfer the data. So which are namely as program controlled input output, interrupt initiated input output, and direct memory access. So we have another mode which is a new processor which we use to perform the task of input output, which is IOP. So that is a different topic, so we will discuss that later on. Let us firstly discuss about program controlled input output. So in programmed control input output, it is the least complex type of transfer mode. In programmed control input output, we don't need any type of specialized hardware. It doesn't need any kind of new mechanism to be introduced. It can work with a very simple hardware. So in program controlled input output, as you can see in the diagram, we are having CPU on one side, then we have interface, and after that we have input output device. So input output device will be sending the data on the basis of handshaking, like we did in the last class, that we are having two type of methods to send and receive the data, like in asynchronous transfer, which was data bus, data valid line, and data accepted line. So this is by using either handshake or by using strobe. So in this example, we are using a handshake mechanism to transfer the data from input output device to the interface. And then once the data is in the interface, then we are using the interface transfer to transfer the data from interface to CPU. In this, we are having two type of buses. First one is the data bus on which the data will travel. Second is address bus on which the address will be given, that from where you have to read that data or write that data. So that will be used for address bus. After that, we have input output read and input output write operation. So according to your requirement, you will be having either reading operation or write operation. So we discussed a slight part of it in your chapter number 5 as well. So the biggest problem with this program controlled input output, we will discuss about that as well. What is the problem? Why this is efficient, not efficient? Why it is not efficient? So we'll discuss about that. But before that, let me firstly tell you how it works. So in the case of program controlled input output, the data from the input output device is collected at the interface. So interface is the one where we get that data. So this is a data which we have in the interface. So after this we have a status register which tells whether the data register in the interface is full or empty. So which we discussed also in your chapter number 5, which was related to IOP, your two registers which we were having, I FGI and FGU. That was flag input, flag input and flag output. So those flags are here. So according to those flags, our CPU is going to fetch the data. If those flags are full or empty, according to that, the CPU will be accessing the data from this data register. But it will keep on checking this flag again and again. It has to check this status flag. If the status flag tells that yes, the data is now filled in this register, then it will transfer the data. Otherwise, it will not perform anything. It will simply keep on checking it again and again. Whereas on the other end, we have input output device. Now in input output device, we have input output bus, we have data valid line, we have data accepted line. So this is a transfer which we have done at this place by using either handshake or by using stroke. That transfer is shown in this part of your diagram. At this place, we are having simply a connection between CPU and interface. Now, how your CPU is going to process the data? Let us see it. First of all, the CPU is going to check the status register and check its flag bit. So it will check what is the flag bit. If the flag bit is 0, if flag bit is 0, then it will again go into the loop and check that again. So it is in the same place, and again it is checking the same flag bit which is at this place. So it will keep on checking this. If our CPU, if the flag bit is 0 and again it is checking it again and again, then it is busy in checking the bit. It is not performing any other task. Your CPU is always busy in simply checking this flag bit. If this flag bit is 0, then again check it. If it is 1, then start with the transfer. Now once the flag is 1, it will read the data register, and transfer the data to memory, and it will transfer the data to memory. And if the operation is complete, is the operation complete? If no, again check the flag bit. If the operation is complete, then exit, or you can say continue with the next program. Continue. Now what is happening here? If we use this diagram, what how it is going to work? First of all, your CPU will check whether this status register is 0 or 1. If the status register is 0, it will again check it. If it is still 0, it will again check it. So it is in this loop for the time, till the time this S register is not getting 1. And once this status register bit is 1, then it will do what it will do. It will pick up the data from this data register and transfer it to memory. If this is the only operation to be done, then it is free. Then operation is complete. It will continue with the program. It will start executing another program. If it is having more data to send, then it will again check that whether the status register is 1 or 0. Whenever this status register becomes 1, it means this data register is full of data. And once this is full of data, then your CPU will pick the data from here and transfer it to memory. So what is the problem in this approach? We have talked about the benefits, that it is simple. Okay, it is not having any kind of complex hardware requirement. It doesn't require anything. But what are the problems with it? First of all, the CPU is always involved in this. You can't free your CPU while processing this kind of a command. So this is the first problem. There is a continuous involvement of CPU. Second problem is your CPU will be slowed down to the speed of your input output devices. So whatever will be the speed of your input output device, that will be the highest speed of your CPU. This is the second problem with this kind of a architecture. Third, your system will not be able to jump from one instruction and execute the other one because it is busy in executing this instruction. So it will not be able to jump from this place or exit from this execution and execute another instruction. So it will not be able to perform. So these are some of the problems with the program controlled input output. Now, as we discussed about programmed input output, and there was a continuous involvement of CPU. Now, in the second case, which is a interrupt initiated input output, now we are going to discuss about that. In interrupt initiated output, it has become the responsibility of the interface to interrupt the CPU when this status register becomes 1. In the last case, which was for program controlled input output, CPU was itself checking this flag bit again and again. But now in the case of interrupt initiated input output, CPU is not going to check it again and again. It is the responsibility of this interface to inform the CPU once this status register is 1. So it is written at this place. What is going to happen? Now let us make a diagram for this, how it is going to work. So now CPU is here. Everything is going to remain same. We will be having an interface here. Then we are having an input output device. Rest everything or functionality of transferring the data like data bus, data valid, data accepted signal, all are going to remain same. Here it will be the same process where we are going to have data bus, address bus, IO read, IO write. Everything is going to remain same. We will be having the status register as well. We will be having the data register here. Now, the only change which is there, that is in this application of that scheme. Now, CPU doesn't check the value of DR or the status register. It doesn't check the status register. Once this DR is full, the interface will send a interrupt to the CPU. So this is an interrupt line which is additional. So CPU will be interrupted by your interface once the status register flag is 1. And once this is 1, CPU will simply pick up the data and transfer it to memory. So in short, what it is done, what we do here is, this is CPU, here is memory, we have interface, and we have input output device. This is an IOD input output device. This is an interface. Now, there is a transfer which happens, and in this we have a status register and a data register flag. DR, that is a data register, and we have a status register flag, SR flag. Now, this once this status register becomes 1, then this interface interrupts the CPU from its side. So once this is interrupted, CPU doesn't check anything, any value, it doesn't do any kind of such work. It simply goes to the data register, picks up the data from here, transfers it to memory. So simple working. Once it receives the interrupt, it stops its own working. Like CPU is now free. CPU is doing some other task. CPU is executing its own program. So we studied about the interrupt cycle and instruction cycle. So CPU performs the instructions or it executes those instructions, and once it receives an interrupt, it goes to an interrupt cycle and pick up the data from data register and transfer it to memory. So this process of getting an interrupt and then performing the data transfer is known as interrupt initiated input output. It is interrupt initiated input output. Now why it is known as? Because this particular type of input output process is only initiated when we have a interrupt. So that is why its name is interrupt initiated input output. Once we get an interrupt, then only we open the communication from CPU to the memory. Otherwise, we are not going to open any kind of communication. So here we are having the main points discussed. So polling takes valuable CPU time. Now what is polling? At this place you can check polling or status checking. Now what does it mean? Checking the flag again and again is known as polling. Checking the state of this SR register again and again is polling, which consumes a lot of CPU time and CPU remains busy. So we are avoiding that in the case of interrupt initiated input output. Now we are only opening up the communication when some data has to be passed. Now how we come to know that we have certain data to pass? When interface sends a interrupt. So that informs our CPU that there is some data in the data register which it needs to pass from DR to memory. Then input output interface instead of CPU monitors the input output device. So this device is now monitored by input interface. It is not having any concern with the CPU. Now CPU is free to do its task. Whenever this data register is having certain data, it will be interrupted. And who will interrupt it? Interface. After that, when the interface determines that input output device is ready for data transfer, it generates the interrupt. So we have discussed this. Upon detecting the interrupt, now what will your CPU do once it receives this interrupt? It will stop its processing, whatsoever it was processing. It will halt it for certain time. It will store the addresses. We have studied about PC, which was program counter. Then we have studied about PSW, processor status word, which was including our certain bits, Z bit, B bit. We have discussed about that in the last class. So it will store those addresses wherever it needs to store the addresses. Once it stores it, then it will stop the processing of the existing command, and then it will pick up the data from DR and transfer it to memory. Now, this was the task of CPU in the case of interrupt initiated input out. It is a quite a big improvement over programmed input output. Why? Because in programmed input output, CPU was always busy. But now CPU is not always busy. CPU is not always busy. CPU is doing its CPU is not always busy. It is simply busy when it has to transfer some data from data register to memory. So it is a good improvement over programmed input output, where the CPU was always busy in checking this status register. But still it is slow. Why? Because CPU has to intervene in the process of input output. So how great it will be if we are able to eliminate CPU from performing this task, getting an interrupt, sending the data from DR to memory. So if we can release our CPU from doing this task, it will be a better thing for us. So for this, they introduced a new mechanism which was known as DMA. It is direct memory access. So in direct memory access, what happens? Now the CPU, the rest everything is going to remain same. CPU don't communicate with memory to transfer the data from DR. We have a new type of device known as a DMA, direct memory access. Now this direct memory access is having some connections with memory. It also has some connections with CPU. It has some connections with interface as well, or input output devices you can say. There are certain connections which it has with all the devices. Now, what is the task of DMA? CPU simply, once the CPU is aware that it has to perform any kind of input output instruction, it needs to execute an input output instruction. What it does, it initializes this DMA. It tells the DMA how much data it has to read, how much data it has to read, from where it has to read it, and what type of operation is it, whether it is write or read. What type of operation is it? How much data it has to process, from where it has to get that data, and what type of operation is it. So it tells the CPU, simply initializes the DMA. Now, once your DMA is having all this information, it interacts with the interface that okay, perform all the transfer by using this mechanism, like this much data I need. Once this DR is filled, let me know. Now, interface will not send any message to the CPU. It will send that interrupt message to DMA, and DMA will further tell the CPU that I want to access this memory bus, because CPU is also having a connection with this memory bus. So CPU is also having a connection because CPU needs to use the memory. So CPU is having a connection, as well as the DMA is now having a connection with the memory. Both of them are having the connection with memory. So memory is something which is shared between CPU and DMA. So DMA, once it has the data in the data register, DMA tells the CPU, wait for a while, I have to transfer the data. So if CPU assigns the DMA with the authority that yes, you can transfer the data, so DMA will directly transfer the data from DR to memory. CPU will not be involved in it. CPU will simply keep on executing its data. Doesn't bother about it. Once this DMA initialization and DMA data transfer is complete, DMA will tell the CPU that I have completed the instruction and I have followed all the things which you have said. You told me that I have to get the this much data from this location and this was the operation. This thing is completed. So it will inform the CPU. So this is how this process works. So CPU is now introduced with a new device known as DMA. Then this DMA is having a connection with memory. It is also having a connection with CPU. CPU is also having a connection with memory. And DMA is also connected to interface. Now, interface is not going to send any message to CPU. It will interrupt the DMA. Further, DMA will ask a request from CPU that should I use the memory bus? If CPU allows it, then it will directly transfer the data from interface to memory. It will not ask the CPU to do anything. The only task which CPU does is the initialization of DM. And how it initialize it? By some information. Now, let us see that how it works. So large blocks of data transferred at a high speed to or from high speed devices. Now these are high speed, but they are not as fast as your CPU is. Then DMA controller interface provides input output transfer of data directly to and from memory to input output devices instead of the CPU. So it is not going to contact the CPU. It will allow this access or data from this side to this. CPU initializes the DMA by sending memory address from where it has to read, and number of words, like how much data it has to read and what type of operation is it, whether it is read or write or any other operation which we have. So CPU's only task is to initialize the DMA. So actual transfer of data is done directly between the device and memory through DMA. CPU is free. So this is how DMA has improved the working of interrupt initiated input output. So earlier in interrupt initiated output, this interrupt was there from interface to the CPU and CPU was involved. But now in DMA, CPU only initializes the DMA and then it is free. All the transfer will be done with the help of DMA. Now we will discuss about the structure and the connectivity of this DMA with CPU in the next class. How they are connected, what are the different things which we have in DMA, what are the initializations, how it works. So we will do all that thing in the next class. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much for your time. See you in the next class.